Okay, hi, this is April Lee with Hope, Faith, and Thriving. I'm going to have an interview today, like a little sit-down chat with Madison Strong. She is a YouTuber, and I've been following her, and I wanted to let you kind of see her life and her story and what she has to share. So go ahead and start with whatever you feel comfortable most starting with. I will say that I did want to touch, like I said, on what your symptoms were when you started getting sick and what made you realize, something was actually wrong and kind of what age you were and how it all began.
Okay, yeah. So, well, obviously I'm Madison. I'm 24 now, but when my first symptoms actually started when I was about 6 years old. Um, and that was, well, do you want me to tell y'all like what I have like before?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I've been diagnosed with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, um, lupus, gastroparesis, and I also have chronic migraines and also fibromyalgia. So that was kind of like
Yeah.
that. But when I was 6 years old, I started showing symptoms of POTS because I literally passed out, and then they told me I had low blood sugar, which I didn't have. Like it didn't show up. So that's like when like everything first kind of started. But I was functioning pretty normal until I was about 17 years old. And that is when it kind of all started to come out. And I was very active and stuff. And then literally, I will never forget, it was the first day of my second semester, my senior year. And I just felt awful. Like I was like, I must be sick. Like I have a cold or something. I
Mhm.
had like all of my joints were aching. I was so tired. And then it just never went away after that. And I went to the doctor and they obviously ran like all of the tests and they said I was fine, told me I was faking it and I needed to go to a
Oh
therapist.
my.
And so, but it really started out when I was 17. And literally, I just like woke up one day in pain and it just kind of never went away after that.
So it did it come and go in flares, or was it pretty consistent for like ever since?
It was pretty consistent. When it first started, it was mild joint pain. And so, but it was consistent joint pain. And also at the time, I was always, well, I'm still always tired, but I could like literally sleep constantly and I was still
Mhm.
not like okay. And then I think that was like a part of the problem of like, obviously, when you can't, like, I would sleep during the day, but I couldn't sleep at night. So I wasn't getting the right amount of sleep. And then that would increase my pain. And it was an ongoing thing up until, well, recently. I really had pain almost every day, but over the years it increasingly got worse and worse. So,
Okay.
and now it's on and off, but that's because I'm on some good medication for it.
Okay. And then when you first so you went to, did you go to a pediatrician because you were 17, or what did you?
Yeah, I went to a family doctor
Okay.
and just told her kind of what was going on,
Mhm.
and she was the one, and I had went to her for years. Like I was pretty close to this doctor, and she was like, the first thing she told me, she was like, try to get up at 3 a.m. and see if you can go to like if you'll go to sleep earlier because of that. And I was like, absolutely not. Like that's not even,
Mhm.
because like obviously I was in school. Like what,
Yeah.
17-year-old is going to get up at 3 a.m. before they
Okay.
go to school at 8.
Okay.
um and then at the time I also was going to a GI doctor because when I was 14, that's kind of when like my stomach issues started
Okay.
too. And they didn't dismiss me, like they just kept saying I had reflux and
Hmm.
they wouldn't do any other test on me, even though I was nauseous all the time and
Okay.
barely could eat. So
Oh my gosh. All right. So you went to your pediatrician or your primary doctor, and they diagnosed you. Who diagnosed you actually?
um
If she didn't believe you, who was the one that was diagnosing you?
so I actually ended up after I So it was actually through my GI doctor. Once I turned 18, obviously I went to an adult GI doctor, and finally they ran some tests on me, and they did, I can't remember the name of the test, but it's like where they put like a tube up your nose and then down your throat and then
Oh,
you
that one.
swallow.
Yes.
And 80% of my swallows were inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
And so she actually sent me to the GI at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, that is when I told my GI doctor, who more or less, she also didn't do any tests, but
Mm-hmm.
hearing about the chronic fatigue and stuff, she sent me to an internalist, and that's who
Okay.
came up with fibromyalgia. But
Okay. All right.
obviously, like, they just, like, the 2-day course that you
Mm-hmm.
go to and you sit through that, and that's all they did for me. I didn't start getting diagnosis until 2021 when I moved to Middle Georgia.
Okay.
And I actually got the ball rolling was my allergist was I
Okay.
told her some of my symptoms, and she was like, we have a lot of POTS patients here because they deal with a lot of MCAS too.
Okay.
And so she kind of got the ball rolling to
Mm-hmm.
get me to like a cardiologist who then also knew about like Ehlers-Danlos and stuff. So
Okay. All right. So it kind of started with, so it wasn't right away like most people. It took a while, and sometimes it's like a doctor you would never expect to diagnose something that's not even in their practice or field that does that
exactly.
sort of stuff. Okay. So then after that, you went to another GI doctor and they diagnosed you with gastroparesis.
Yeah. So after I moved to Middle Georgia, I went to my allergist.
Mm-hmm.
I also told her about I already knew that I needed to get a GI doctor here because even with nothing else, I do have reflux because of my gastroparesis. So I needed like the medications for it.
Okay.
So when my allergist, um, what is it? When I'm blanking
For
here,
the testing, you mean?
refer you out. They refer you out to
Okay.
the GI. And they listened to me, and they did like an endoscopy, and they looked and they were like, everything seems fine, but like you're really like tracking with gastroparesis. And so he diagnosed me with that. But then unfortunately they couldn't really do anything because like with gastroparesis, you have like 2 medicines that a regular GI doctor can give you, and then after that you have to go see a motility specialist. So then I had to get transferred out again.
Okay.
But it really just took like a couple of good doctors actually believing what was going on
Mm-hmm.
to get any type of diagnosis.
Okay. And so since then, what do they give you for your gastroparesis? Is there anything you take that actually helps you?
Yeah, so I'm on I believe it's called Domperidon.
Oh,
It's out of
okay.
Canada.
Yeah.
So you can't get it in the US. You only can get it through Canada. I think New Zealand. It's not
Okay.
FDA approved. But I tried to do Reglan, which is like a liquid one that you take like 3 or 4 times a
Yeah.
day. And it actually made me so tired that I could not function.
Okay.
um, I would sleep like 10 hours at night, and then I would get up and I would have to take like 3 or 4 naps throughout the day to
Okay.
even
So
be able
much
to have
worse
full
than normal.
function. And then it actually also made me more nauseous than I was before. So it
Okay.
had the complete opposite effect.
Okay.
And a lot of people complain about that, and
Mhm.
doctors try to say that it's not possible to make you more nauseous, but I've heard a lot of people have that complaint, so I'm
Anything's
not really sure.
possible. Yeah. So the other medicine that you're on, because I've heard of that one, the Domperidon, does that one actually work for you consistently? Like you feel pretty good, and um, do you feel like if you didn't take it, you'd be sicker and you'd have more symptoms?
Oh yeah, I definitely would, because before I got on it, I barely could eat. And now I can, majority of days, I do pretty good with being able to eat. I do still have to be careful, like on the amounts and like
Yeah.
depending on what I'm eating. But in
Okay.
general, I'd say it has helped a ton.
Okay.
But it kind of, it also depends on my stress levels. Like,
Mhm.
you know, obviously a medicine can only take you so far. And if I get stressed out, then the nausea is going to come back either way. It just increases my symptoms. But on the daily basis, like it definitely helps a lot.
Okay. And then overall, like, do you feel like you have everything pretty controlled, like with medicine and like the things that you've done,
I would say
treatments?
In general, yes. Sometimes I still really struggle with a lot of pain, but it is definitely better than it used to be. In 2022, I was basically on bed rest almost. I couldn't,
Okay.
at that time is when I was actually had to buy a wheelchair and like a walker to help me get around because I
Okay.
literally could not walk. Like,
From the pain and the
yeah,
fatigue
the
that you
pain,
had?
and I was so tired. And
Okay.
I would just literally, like, if I was in a store or something, like, I feel like I was just like gonna collapse almost just because I
Okay.
was that tired and in that much pain. But that was before I got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos and lupus because I have lupus
Okay.
of my skin and my joints. So that was before I got on an immunosuppressant. So
Okay.
that has helped a lot. So I'd say
Okay.
definitely doing better. Like, I still obviously have my bad days, but way better than I was like in 2022. So
Okay. And like with fibromyalgia, because that one, so I mean, I think it's, I don't know what it is exactly. They don't think it's autoimmune, but they think it's more I guess like neurological
Mhm.
in the way that it does the causes the pain. And then it seems like your other conditions, you have the also the inflammatory side of it. So it seems like
Mhm.
when you calm that down, it did it seem like it kind of helped the fibromyalgia not cause the pain? Because I know the fibromyalgia is basically just like this little lighter that comes around and like makes everything like worse and accelerated. So
Yeah.
the treatments that you do, do you feel like they calm everything down enough that the fibromyalgia cannot be like kind of controlling you in the sense of making you so achy and so tired that you can't, you're like bedridden basically?
Yeah, I do think that the medications definitely help. Specifically, I think the immunosuppressant that I'm on for lupus because it helps obviously with the inflammation and
Mhm.
stuff. And a lot of when I would get like fibromyalgia symptoms,
Mhm.
like specifically, it would be when I was completely inflamed, like I could feel it between my
Okay.
joints and stuff.
Mhm.
So helping with that inflammation has definitely helped with fibromyalgia pains. The only thing that has not been helpful, like, is I'm very sensitive to touch. So if somebody like pokes me or grabs my arm too hard, it will literally, like, if they poked me right here, it'd send pain through my entire arm, and that has never gotten better. But
Okay.
I'm pretty used to that. It happened to me. Like, I had that symptom since I was a child. So,
Wow. Okay.
and people would be like, oh, like, you're being dramatic. Like, there's no way that hurt that bad. And I'm like, I swear, like, it's like I've had times like when my
Mhm.
dog will jump up on me and she'll accidentally scratch me, especially when we had a bigger dog, and it
Mhm.
almost would bring me to my knees. It would hurt so bad. And
Okay.
so that's about the only
Wow.
thing I say has not been helped at all. But in general,
Okay.
I'd say most of the symptoms are kind of helped, except and the chronic fatigue that just not never goes away.
Okay. And then overall, like your migraines, what do you do for that?
Well, currently I am having to I'm actually in the middle of switching over to Botox to the
Okay.
in the back of my neck because that's where a
Okay.
lot of my migraines stem from. I have done it all. I've tried all of the triptans, like the old
Mhm.
medicines. I've been on Emgality, and they started me on Nurtec, but it's been like a whole thing. It was supposed to be a preventative, but then like my insurance wouldn't cover it. So they gave me like 8 pills for like a month, maybe it, or it might even be longer. Like, it's nothing, it's not going to barely do anything for me.
Yeah.
So we've kind of had to switch to trying out the Botox, but I haven't gotten that done yet.
Okay.
Um, and I think I kind of, for a while, like, my migraines kind of went away. I think it was just kind of like a luck, like I got lucky for
Mhm.
a while and then they came back. And that's why I'm having to start with the Botox.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it is because now that I'm back in school and I have all that stress on my neck from my book
Mhm.
bag or like leaning over and stuff,
Yeah.
it's like triggering them. So
Okay.
they're hoping that, like, by relaxing those muscles, maybe it will help
Yes.
with migraines.
It helps me a lot because I have, do you get the trigger points in your neck, like the tightness in the
Mhm.
muscles and all of that in general? Do
Yeah,
you have that?
I get pretty much when I get a really bad migraine, it'll make my entire neck hurt, and then it'll go down into my shoulders, and
And
it
then
always
it
starts at
creep
like the
up
back of my head.
after. Does it come
Yeah.
up after that into your head more?
It
Okay.
does.
Yeah, that's really weird. I'm trying to figure out like myself because I go to the neurologist and they're like, it can't be from your neck. I'm like, it sure is from the muscles and neck. And I think the more people that complain in this, and it's weird, this pattern of people with fibromyalgia talking about this from the neck up. And that's why like the medications don't seem to do anything because it works in a different way and it's muscular. So if you can relax the muscle, it seems like the muscle and the nerves work better together. They don't inflame each other and aggravate each other to cause the migraine.
Exactly.
So for me personally, because I used to have a migraine every day, and now
Mm-hmm.
I get out of the 12 weeks of the shots, I get a migraine 3 to 4 times total.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like amazing. I just want to touch on that because I know a lot of people that follow you probably would like to know what helps others. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's
So
kind of hard to say too, because when he diagnosed me, um, I actually don't like go to a migraine specialist. My neurologist is actually an MS specialist because they were testing me for MS at the time, and he kind of just took over my care. But he said that treating my migraines would be very hard because there's not a technical like reason for them. I can't remember the name of it. It's really long,
idiopathic.
but it literally just means like you have migraines for no reason, basically. And he was like, that's really hard to treat. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah. So as far as your viewers and anyone new that would come to see you on your channel, like what do you want them to know about you? And like what, I guess like what you're all about or what you would want them to get from your channel or from getting to know you.
Hmm.
You can share whatever that would be.
I think for me, like mainly, well, I have been trying to do social media since I was like 17. It's just always been something that I enjoyed. But as I got, as I started getting sicker and sicker for a long time, I was really scared to post about it because I had already been like, told that I was crazy. Like so like, obviously you don't want to bring that online because that just brings more like criticism and stuff. But once I finally realized like it's not something to really like be ashamed of, like I tell everybody, like everybody, I'm like, oh yeah, like I have these like,
Mhm.
and like if somebody asks me about it, like I'll talk about it. I don't care. And I really just, for me, my social media turned into wanting to like make other people feel less alone because um it's it's such a small percentage of people. I think sometimes when like, because I know a lot is going on about, I don't know if you've seen the news, but they'll be like, oh, these TikTok girls, like they're they're faking their sicknesses and stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
um, because it seems like a lot of people when you look online, but if you
Mhm.
like really think about it like in your own circle, like I'm the only person that I know that has these issues.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to come online to make people feel less alone and
Mhm.
not like that they don't have to feel like scared to talk about it, because I feel like a lot of people think that when you're chronically ill, like you need to be like hush hush and like
Yeah. Like
you
quit
can't talk about
griping
it. And
and be quiet and
I totally don't agree with that. So I like to come online and make other people feel like they're not alone and it's okay to talk about. And
yeah.
I've picked up a lot of people on the way who are like glad that people are talking about it and stuff. So
No, I think it's awesome. And I'm noticing too, like on my Facebook and stuff or on certain things, like if I post something, people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you had this. Like I've been dealing with, like I've known them for 20 years and I'm like, I've been dealing with this and that and then and all these things like for all this time and like their whole life. And I never knew. And so then they open up or they'll want a private message or they want to follow or they want to talk about it more and help other people. And I think it's great because when I got sick, I was super alone. My family, you have all these problems and you don't look any different. You just look tired. And
mhm,
so you tell them these things and they look at you like, what in the world? What do you mean? Like you feel that these shooting pains and numbing and tingling and pins and needles and brain fog and all that. And um finding like your channel was great for me. I'm like, I could be like your old auntie age wise. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's just so much about you with like your symptoms that are so relatable to all the things I have that it makes it feel like, oh, wow, okay. Because a lot of times they'll, how the doctors are like, oh, you're just anxious or
Mhm.
oh, you're just a young girl starting out and you don't sleep well and whatever. Or for me, they're like, you're a mom and that's just what moms, they're just tired and hurt, or you're getting older, whatever it is. So I think having all these different age groups supporting each other and just sharing, and for you, to have what you have at this young age and being able to like how you've come so far, because there's, if you weren't able to get your diagnosis, all the things you have, and you were not able to get the right treatment and keep pushing and trying and just accepting like, oh, it's all in my head, and you're
Mhm.
stuck in bed and maybe, at home forever, and not able to go to school and like work towards whatever it is you want to do with your own life, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's encouraging to other people. And then for myself, like, I hope like that, people your age, like if you want to have a husband and kids and all that, like you can see like, hey, I could still do that. You know what I mean? It's not
Right.
like I'm going to feel this way forever or it's not possible. So that's why I do what I do. But yeah, I love your channel and I'm definitely going to promote people going to see it. And Madison does a lot of like a day in the life. So she does like follow me to Target and follow me to Chick-fil-A
I'm
and
always at
Carmel.
Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
Target.
no, I love Chick-fil-A. And just like her little animals and just like who she is. And then it's not just all about talking about a symptom or an illness, it's just about your life. And it's, short and brief, but just enough that you feel like connected and normal.
Yeah.
That's what I love about your channel. You're not just talking about sickness, like you're just doing normal things and you have a bunch of abnormal things. And when you share, your life and stuff, it kind of like takes people out of that. Maybe they're in bed that day. Like the days I watch things, it's usually like I'm walking my dogs and I want to catch up and I'll be listening to whoever just to see how they're
Mhm.
doing. Or I might be like having a migraine that day and I just want to hear or see what you're doing in your day. And it takes my mind off of my symptoms. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
she's doing pretty good. And then there's days where you show up and you got like ice on your head and you got a migraine and you're talking about your next whatever. So it also shows that every day and literally every day, hour and minute is so different with these
Mhm.
things. Like just yesterday, we went to my husband went to the pool. I was with my husband, all that. I come home. He's like, what happened? You were just fine. And all of a sudden my neck, gets all tight and
Mhm.
sore. And I had getting a migraine. I'm like, oh, great. And I have this meeting today. And I'm like, all right. So I get out all my hacks and my tools and all that. And a few hours later, I felt better. And it's almost like it's really weird because when you first get sick and it happens, you ignore it sometimes because you're like,
Mhm.
that's weird that
Right.
like and then one day, and the problem is if you keep ignoring it you will shut down. So I shut down just like you did. All of a sudden
Right.
I couldn't barely talk or move or do anything, and I was in so much pain and I had like endless symptoms and I couldn't even like complete a sentence. And I
Mhm.
go to the doctor and they're like, you need physical therapy. I'm like, for what? I
Exactly.
was just doing like beach body workouts and running after my kids. What the heck do I need that for? And they look
Mhm.
at you like, are you depressed? I'm like, no, my mind is happy. I look ridiculous. I'd walk around like I had been drinking. Yeah, I'm like
Mhm.
leaning on the walls and like tipping over just and get my blood drawn and stuff. And it's just crazy. So if
Yeah.
you're on Madison's channel and watching this, you're on mine or whatever, however you're seeing this, if you're having like weird out of the norm symptoms and they are coming and going, um, it's the most likely are not going to stop. It's something that your body is fighting and you need to get answers. You need to do something about it. And don't take just anxiety for an answer or just depression for an answer, whatever. Get tested and make sure that it's not something more, because yes, anxiety, especially if I get anxious, if my symptoms are coming on and I'm thinking, great, now I'm going to feel like this for 2 weeks, I might get a lot of anxiety because I'm like, oh no, I had all these plans and now I'm going to hurt for 2 weeks. So it's just really important to get everything tested, all the blood work, all the labs, all the scans, everything you possibly can to rule out before you also just get these diagnoses. Like yours, some of them are presented on the scan and the gastric
Mhm.
emptying, all that. You can see all that, but like some are like lupuses and all that, but like fibromyalgia, there's no major test. It's a, process of elimination. Then, there you
Yeah.
are. And then still, there's a lot of people who think like MCAS is the fuel for that, or the fact that you have other autoimmune and then it weakened your immune system so much that fibromyalgia is now like a factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because I have autoimmune things and then suddenly I had fibromyalgia. So,
Right.
um,
Do you mind if
anyway,
I
yeah.
touch on what you were saying? Just like how you're talking about getting tested and stuff. I feel like a lot of times now, like people talk about doctor shopping and how like you shouldn't go to multiple doctors, but I really think like if there's your body better than anyone. So if you know something is wrong, like go to different doctors until you find somebody that's going to help you, because
Mhm.
like if I had listened to that, then I would have never gotten any type of diagnosis, and I would be literally probably laying in bed like feeling like I was about to die. Like that
Oh
is
yeah.
what I got to, but because I was okay with going to different doctors and finding somebody that helped, like it's worth it. Even if you get like criticized by other people, like, oh, you're just trying to get a diagnosis. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you are, because you don't feel good. Like, so
Yeah.
that's just more what I was thinking when you were talking about the anxiety, because a lot of people will push it off on anxiety and stuff. But if you get a doctor that will really listen, it can be really helpful. So
Oh yeah. And then one more thing. Um, if you are constantly having symptoms and you're afraid, or you are basically thinking like you're losing your mind because every doctor like, oh, good. The good news is your labs they show nothing. The bad news is we don't know. And after years of that, you get like medical. I don't know about you. I was getting medical anxiety. I'd go to the doctor. I'm like, oh no. And they would see me nervous because I'm like, can you just like diagnose me so I can like treat this and move on?
mhm.
And they'll look at you like, do you have anxiety? I'm like, no, I just don't know what I have. And now I have anxiety because I don't know what I have. So that is a
Right.
thing, at least for me. And so
Yeah.
once I got all my diagnoses, it was weird. Now I knew I have these things. I mean, I get rid of them or not, but it gave me more peace to at least
Mhm.
know. And you feel like, wow, okay, because you literally think like there's a little percent where you think you're losing your mind. Like
Yeah.
I
That I
did.
did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
I
I
thought it
got
was crazy.
diagnosed, I was like, I was obviously upset that like I had all these issues. I said, but I'm more at peace or happy that now I have an answer, and I don't feel like, because I started to question myself. I'm like, maybe I am just trying to get it to, like, I don't know, like, because everybody's saying I'm okay. Like, and so yeah, I definitely get that. Like,
Okay. So let's see. I'm thinking we should end here, and then I have so many more things I want to cover in some other little videos.
mhm.
Whatever you want to share, but how do you want to end? Like what do you want to end on? As far as like what you want them to know or you want to share?
Um, I really I can't even, I'm just so excited that I got to talk to you today. Like, and I'm excited that we got to kind of dig deeper into everything, because I do know that, like you were saying, like sometimes when you just show up on somebody's channel, you don't know the background story and stuff. So
Mm.
I'm just glad that we got to talk about that today. I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about, but I didn't realize we've almost been here like 40 minutes. I had no
Oh my
idea.
gosh. Okay. Yeah, I know. Cause I do want to do so I'm going to do some other videos, if Madison wants to, and talk about certain topics where we could dissect little things and make them shorter so you can get, maybe some encouragement or, some medical advice or something through the stuff that we've learned. And, but for today, I'm going to end it here because I feel like we covered a lot, and it's enough to kind of like chew on a little bit and get to know her more. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.